Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Bourbon with Friends. I'm Paul, joined by Connor, and today we have two special guests with us. They are the co-founders of Penelope Bourbon, Michael and Daniel. How are you doing, fellas?
Doing great, man. What is it? 12 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
Although when this airs, I know you're not supposed to use dates.
Oh, that's fine.
January.
I don't care.
Nah,
no, it's good because then we can laugh about Christmas. Everyone's gonna be so confused, like, why are you fucking talking about Christmas still, guys? Like, it's weird.
I'm in the Christmas spirit right now, but thanks for having us, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you. For myself, because I have a friend who really is involved with you guys that really likes your stuff. You know, hearing a lot about the brand and seeing it on. The first thing that I have to say is this bottle is beautiful. I love the design of it, and I'm just gonna ask just real quick, just right off the bat, throw it out. How'd you guys kind of land on the bottle design? And I know the name, right? Like we'll get into that, but how did you come up with the design of the bottle itself and the logo?
You want to go, Danny?
Well, I'll start off by saying it wasn't always like this. When we first started, I mean, Mike and I designed a label off of Microsoft Word.
With crayons.
It was pretty much, it was
You
pretty
should have seen our
amateur hour.
first logo. It was so bad too.
Yeah, our first logo was but that was the whole idea is we kind of bootstrapped this from the beginning. We were didn't really have a lot of extra, but we didn't even have the term budget, put it that way. It's like, oh, how much is it going to cost? And, we had to do it ourselves. We didn't really have the funds for an agency. So we just said, let's just keep it simple. Just put a big P on it, Times New Roman font, whatever. And, look, when it's sitting on a bar shelf, it's highly identifiable. That's the most important thing, right? From a brand perspective.
Correct.
Very identifiable. And then, we had a first iteration of it where it was just a P, and that kind of looked awkward. And at the time we were doing the label, my wife's favorite flowers are peonies, and they were in full bloom. It was May, and I look outside and I'm like, put a peony behind it. and that's kind of the background. I mean, just keeping it sweet. And we've always wanted to keep it super clean, simple. And that's kind of been it since then, really.
Right.
No, I really like it. So it is identified, and my first name's Paul, so the P kind of like sticks out every time I would see it.
That's a bottle made for you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna get all of them and then just stack it. It's gonna be like my shrine to myself. Just pretend it's St. Paul on the bottle.
We should do the Coca-Cola thing where you put the different names on every bottle.
Paul's
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Connor's light whiskey.
I'm
light
for
whiskey. I love it. The light goes
all
to Connor.
of them run the whole
whiskey.
gamut.
Hey, that's okay. What another thing that I love about the bottle is how heavy it is. It's a heavier bottle than I think a lot of other bourbon or whiskey bottles in general. Having the extra material at the bottom, was that intentional? Is that just kind of how it happened when you're making the glass and making the design, or did you intentionally say, I mean, maybe you guys don't even realize that it's a heavier bottle. Maybe that's just me, but is that something that you guys thought of, like in the bottling process? Like, hey, let's make this a bit heavier to grasp. Maybe it feels like there's more whiskey in it or something like that.
Well, I mean, Danny plays a big part in it, but I think, for us, the glass is actually, I love these questions too. You don't get these type of questions a lot. And this is something that's interesting for us because we're like always talking with our glass provider. It's obviously a very timely conversation right now from a supply chain perspective. But we looked at a lot of different iterations of this, and, our glass partner who's been with us since literally day one, Jimmy Owens, just a great guy. We had looked at a few iterations, and I think it was meant to just, it's part of it was you have the well at the bottom, and it's from, it's a more of a higher quality. It's like it's a more premium glass bottle. And I think it's honestly been our same exact one we've used since the beginning. So we haven't changed it. And for us, we weren't coming out of the gate. We didn't have a custom mold. So we didn't, it's still a stock bottle. Don't get me wrong, but just, was a little bit, I felt like had a higher quality.
Yeah, it works though, right? Like you took a bottle that, like, to your point, is like more of a stock type bottle, but you made it very identifiable with the people who are looking for your brand. Because some people you see with the bottles that are like this, and it's just like, that's boring as shit. And this isn't right. You know, you have the logo all, kind of all over it. You have the logo on the cap, all of that. It's got a great presentation. And I didn't really realize it was heavy until Connor said something. And I was like,
It
that
is
is a little heavy.
It's heavy. And you know what? That making it look premium. I think it is premium whiskey inside, but I feel like this belongs top shelf no matter what. I feel like, this stands out on the back of a bar, and that's a great point. Making it look premium, even though we all know it is premium stuff, but maybe to the novice, to someone who doesn't know, they're going to look at this bottle and say, I'm going to try that. That looks like it would be good.
You'd be surprised. There's a big difference between the well at the bottom. Adds a lot of weight. So number one, this thing, like, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you drop it, we've dropped plenty of these bottles on our bottling line. These tank. Things, they don't break. It's like an iPhone. Nope. I mean, the new iPhones or the new Androids, they don't break.
The new
now
ones,
anymore.
not the old ones that shatter.
The old ones, forget it. But they've kind of, I mean, this thing is pretty damn sturdy. But we've looked at a lot of other bottles like in the beginning, and when you didn't have that glass, it was like there was no weight to it. I think it weighs like 3.4 pounds filled. I mean, with the other ones, it was like, somewhere in the twos.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the average bottle weight is, because I guarantee this is above average.
We just came up with the podcast.
There's definitely pros and cons. Like the pro about this bottle is that it is very like simple, so it fits on any sort of bottling line. Like if we're bottling at different places, there's no problem just jumping on that machinery. Right. And then the downside is that it is heavy, so you can't fill a truck with the glass because it's like you max out on the weight limit of the truck before you fill it.
Right.
So Michael, kind of talk to us a little bit about how you came up with the name. I know on your site it talks about it, but it's kind of a cool story.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's named after my 3-year-old. And what's crazy to think about, so we started this, my wife and I were trying to have children for a while, and it's a kind of a hectic, stressful process if you're over the age of 35. Nobody really gave us that memo. And, we always loved that name, Penelope. That was, my wife loved it. I loved it. So we said, if we had a girl, we got a name picked out. And so when we did find out we were having a girl, like, it wasn't like immediately after finding out I was having a baby, but it was like, within like, I don't know, maybe like 5 minutes, I had this idea. I just was like, wow, that has a great ring for a bourbon too. And my wife was 4 months pregnant. And I'd say we just hit the ground running from there on out. Danny and I, we live in New Jersey. We didn't have any background in it, but we both loved bourbon. That was really it. I mean, very, very kind of like with the name of the podcast. I mean, we were just friends that like bourbon with friends. I mean, that was really what we were. And, we just jumped head first into it right away. And kind of just, I'm getting a little nostalgia just thinking about it too. It's like, man, like her entire life, she just turned 3 in November, has been this crazy journey. If you think about
crazy how fast it goes too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you wake up and they're like itty bitty, and then you're like, what? How did you become like 3?
Yeah. And it's funny too, because it was, we have our bottling line in our offices about 45 minutes away from here. But when I'm working from home and she's at the house, it's like how many times I say the word Penelope is like unbelievable. Like whether I answer the phone, Mike, hey, it's Mike from Penelope Bourbon. Hey, and then I'm like typing an email. I'm like, Michael@PenelopeBourbon.com. Penelope, go to bed. Like, it's just like never ending. How many times I say that name? It's like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like,
she's gonna be a teenager and literally just hit you in the throat one day. Gonna walk in and just chop you in the throat with the heavy bottle. Just walk up and just knock you. Shut up, Dad. Tired of saying my name. She's gonna change her name to like, what if she has a middle name? That's what she's gonna go by when she's like 16. Just prepare yourself. It's gonna happen.
She's changing it.
So let's talk about. Let's dive into the juice. I mean, I'm excited to try. So, full disclosure, I've not tried this stuff yet. So this is you're gonna get my like virgin opinion, raw and uncut. So what we're gonna try first. And the thing that I like about this is I love 4 grain. So there's a pretty good shot. I'm gonna look this. I can't even speak. This is the Penelope Bourbon. It is an 80 proof. Fun facts about this: it's 2 to 3 years old. Mash bill is 75% corn, 50% wheat, 7% rye, and 3% malted barley. So there's your 4 grain all in that. Anything that's 80 proof for the newbies out there, the novices, this is a good starting point. So I have a really sneaky feeling this is going to be a good introductory bourbon for a lot of people out there. So it's already in the glass. So I'm going to try it.
Yeah. So, I mean, funny stuff. I mean, this one was interesting. So this was our first product ever. This is when we had started, we kind of cold called MGP. We said, hey, we got this idea. We want to start a bourbon company, but we need whiskey. So we had to kind of like figure it like, well, and so they sized this up a little bit and they said, all right, why don't you come down, visit, and we'll sip through some stuff. And that's when I got Danny involved. I mean, they were like, do you want a +1? I was like, heck yeah, I definitely want a +1. And we were golfing and the three of our friends, I was like, I got a +1 to Indiana if anyone wants to go check bourbon. And one of our friends had to ask his wife and Danny just said yes, right on the fly.
There you go.
Win. Total win.
Yeah.
You're in.
But Danny, I don't know if you want to tell them about the blend and how it kind of came about. It's pretty cool.
No, I mean, that was really like the first time even Mike and I had ever gone to like a tasting of that size. I mean, we walked in the room and they had all these mash bills on the table. I mean, we narrowed it down to bourbons and we just checked out like their 99 corns, their 45 wheats. Actually, we were looking at the 36 rye too and the 21 rye. But we just started tasting and we were going through. Everything was cut to like everything was cut to 40 proof, so it was light. It wasn't full, just to get through them. And we liked the mash bills themselves, but at one point we just looked at each other like, well, you like that, I like that. Let's just start mixing them together.
Yeah.
So we started blending on the spot, and we put together these 3 mash bills, and we both looked at each other and we're like, whoa, like, all right, like he liked it, I liked it, like we both really liked it. And I mean, that's been the 3 core mash bills that we've used ever since in all of our products.
And it's definitely like really sweet, right? I like on your website, you kind of say it has like an icing type, finish. And I didn't really think about it until I read that. And I'm like, it does. It's got that, like, I don't want to say like icing's not weird, but icing has a very distinct, sweet kind of feel to it, and it does have that kind of icing feel that I really like. It's really sweet. There's no burn, which I mean, I've also blown my taste buds out there because like I have to caveat this now with the people that don't usually drink bourbon that come to me like, you said there's no burn and I died, and I'm like,
no, there's like literally no burn on that.
Yeah, well, I am like, well, you probably like sniffed it with your mouth closed and then took a big swig and didn't let it kind of sit there for a second, and then you killed yourself. But no, like this is one I would definitely say for like a person who's really getting into whiskey, especially like there's enough there for the person who likes whiskey, but it's really nice for someone who's coming into it because you're going to get a lot of different flavor profiles, and then there's not going to be a lot of heat.
Yeah, no, and
there's a lot of grain.
Oh, sorry, Danny, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a lot of grain behind the profile too. Like it's not a lot of it's not as much barrel influence as like you go through like this roller coaster of the grains. Like you can get the sweetness of the corn, like little spice of the rye. So it's like a little bit of everything. And it's an easy drinker. We don't chill filter it. We've tried chill filtering it. It killed the mouthfeel. It just
None of
got
your stuff
like
is chill filtered, right?
Right.
No, and originally we didn't really even know. Like, I didn't know much about chill filtration. I just knew it cost like $3,500. If from like a process, I'm like, oh, I can't. That's like crazy right there.
Not doing
I'm
that.
like, well, can we like scrap that? No, but that was it. And then as we started to get more like really deep into the bourbon world, we're like, oh yeah, this is like cool. But really, it's like anything sub 95, sub 90 proof chill filtrations. You kind of see it all the time.
Right.
But I kind of use the analogy. I'm like, look, like I go to like Honest. If people like Honest tea because it's got all that stuff floating around in it. Now, I'm not saying there's stuff floating around in ours, but that's where a lot of the flavor lives. And so if you filter out some of that from an Honest tea, whether it's the tea leaves, whatever have you, you lose some of that flavor. And the same thing goes with this. You lose, a tremendous amount of the flavor, especially at the age and whatnot. So, we kind of made a point where, we wanted to do something different. We knew when you're coming to market with something, you can't just be this, like, you can't just come out you start a company and be like, I'm going to make the world's best bourbon. It's like, what? Who are you?
It's a process.
Yeah. And so you had to, like, for us, that was the one thing we have, so we had a kind of a unique name. I feel like bourbon, whiskey in general is much more masculine in terms of the branding and things like that. So, and this, while we're not like marketing it towards a particular male, female audience, it's just like, look, it's named after my daughter. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And for us, it was like, let's do an 80 proof because there's not many of them out there. More folks are getting away from it. So it was just something different. And I do think that the 80 proof market is massive. I think there's a massive market for it. And it's probably our hardest product to sell, to be honest with you, because that's where you're truly building a brand for people maybe getting into the category or trying to convert them from vodka, wine, what have you. So it's definitely
because you have so many people that are out there in that realm of that drink it so much, they're going to that higher 100 proof plus. And so I didn't actually think about it that way till you said that, which is true. The company that probably masters the marketing of like 80 proof bourbon in the newbie realm, I think is the one that's going to probably win. But the question is like how, and then the better question is how the hell do you do that? Like successfully?
Yeah, believe me. Yeah. I wish I had so it's funny you said that. I actually had a call. So I had a call today and we were talking about like digital marketing strategies, right? And I'm like, well, it's really tricky for us. And we always kind of said our tagline indirectly is like everyone's bourbon. Because there's trying to get something for everybody, And what's interesting is if you look at that 4 grain, that 80 proof, that's a very different demographic from a marketing perspective than say our barrel strength toasted. We have a new American light whiskey, limited release coming out, like very high proof, just a totally different kind of ball game in terms of who you're going after and how you're marketing. So, yeah, it's definitely it's definitely been interesting, but it does well. I mean, it's still to this day, it's our top seller.
Our 80 proof is like a quiet consumer. They're not very vocal. They go to the store every week and they buy a bottle of the 80 proof and they drink it every day. It's their everyday drinker.
And it's great because it's a fantastic price point as well, especially for that, for what it is, for starting off someone just getting into whiskey. Kind of goes back to how the bottle looks they were talking about before. It looks like it'd be premium. And then what's it sit on the shelf for? Like $35 maybe is MSRP just about. So, I mean, there are so many I would say that's where a lot of whiskeys sit that are like in that mid range, especially at 80 proof. But your eyes automatically go to this.
And a lot of people think that price point means that it's not good or it's cheap, which that's the misconception that a lot of people also have in whiskey, that price determines the taste, and it doesn't. Because I've had a lot of whiskey that are $200 a bottle that I was really pissed I spent $200 a bottle.
Yeah.
I had a lot of whiskey that I spent $35 on, and I was really happy I did.
There you go.
I always viewed myself as because I still am a consumer. I mean, at the end of the day, and I just remember, it was rare that I think. Now that I've gotten much deeper into bourbon, I my kind of version of where I will target spend on a bottle has changed a little bit. But this is going back maybe 2017. Let's just call it 2017. Not too long ago, a couple of years ago, just before I got into this, before we started this. I would try to stay like under $45, $40. And, and that's why I loved Eagle Rare. And I still do. I beat Buffalo Trace. You had just ones that were still somewhat readily available at that time. And it could be High West was still coming into swing with some of their stuff. There were some good ones out there, and I would just usually grab one of those. And
especially if you're entering the category and you're just starting like your exploration, like there's plenty of stuff in that realm to just start dabbling into, right? And then figure out where your palate lies. And then start jumping into the, the cask strength stuff, the stuff that's, $80, $90, $100.
Well, what's funny, Danny, is we didn't even there was no middle ground for us. We did 80 proof and then we went right to cask strength.
Right. Yeah.
Everything. No, we don't have anything. It's like we were so burned out on 80 because we worked on it for so long, and then we're just like, all right, just right out of the barrel from here on out.
Yeah. No. But the first batch was it was fire. It was literally
it was tough.
Horrible.
Very, very tough batch.
Yeah.
That was a really tough batch.
Well, speaking of going up,
call that a lot of lessons learned batch.
And the joys of making whiskey, right?
Oh God.
Speaking of going up a little bit more in proof, let's tackle this barrel strength, which I am excited to try. This is another 4 grain. I have a 115.8 proof batch 8. So really excited. 3.5 to 5 years old. Again, 75% corn, 50% rye, or 50% wheat, 7% rye, 3% malted barley. So I'm really excited on this one because it is. We're gonna get into a little bit more heat on this one.
Absolutely. Now, so just to give you some background too, how when we had that first, a lot happened on that first meeting. We made a lot of key decisions that have been with us for a very long time. So what we decided was, I mean, at the time, MGP had everything. You could buy 11-year 21 rye bourbon barrels.
Right.
They had it all. They had it all for sale. I mean, and I remember like just kind of like trying to wrap my head around this. I was like, wait a second, how do I build a brand? So okay, I can buy this 11-year for this price. But then how do I, like, what if I go to, like, I sell out of it and then I go to get more and they don't have any more? I'm like, I couldn't wrap my head around not having a consistent product.
Yeah.
So that was a very tough thing for me to, so I said, well, Danny, why don't we just start young? And then, you know, we always have the 2-year. I feel like they'll always have 2-year stock.
Right.
Not thinking about it, like, but I was just thinking about it from like consistency and like from a brand perspective. Like, I was like, all right, so we'll, like here at the end of the day, let's start with 2-year barrels. And you know, we were selling it from our car too. We didn't even have a wholesaler for about a year. So we were just like, we had a little extra margin that we could kind of, you know, save a couple extra bucks. So we sell it and then we could buy some more barrels. So we always said we're going to start with 2-year and backfill. So our barrels are slowly, gradually getting older. And so batch 1 of barrel strength was that was probably all 2.5-year-old barrels, maybe. So now you're up to 47 months. Which, by the way, we're going to change over to years for the next batch because you don't say my kid's 47 months years old. You know, it doesn't fly. It's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm like 197 months old. You're like, what?
So this one I get on the nose. I get a ton of, I mean, and it's not uncharacteristic when you get into that higher proof that you're getting a lot of those more caramel notes. I'm getting like more like not baking spice, but kind of like a spicy. I don't get pepper on like the heat of it, but it's kind of like that. It's almost like a spicy cinnamon to me. And then there's like a hint of sweet on the back end, but it's got that nice little, like I like to say, Kentucky hug. It gives you that burn that you want to feel on a cold night like that, and it's not like that overbearing. That's just right there, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, man. So that one, that was the first one where we really had spice. That was the first batch. Batch 8 was the one where we were trying to crack that baking spice kind of profile. We try to do it on 6 a little bit, and I don't think we got it as much as we wanted to. And 7 was much more dark chocolate notes, and 8, the rye was very good, so we kind of went up on the rye, and Danny nailed it.
You'd have had me on that chocolate though.
7 was good. I like 7 too.
It's interesting.
I'm into spices now. I because we haven't had it before, so it's new to us. You know, that's a new profile for us, which I loved.
What's interesting is that you don't have, like, the wheat is only 15%, but I feel like I can smell the wheat really prevalent when I'm like smelling the whiskey. I don't know why. Whether it's just kind of the way it's sat in the barrel, how everything's kind of mixed. It seems like I can pick that out the most, which is real interesting to me because I literally, when I took a sip, I kind of took a little breath in and I got like sweet wheat almost. Now it's probably the corn and the wheat mix, but it was just a real interesting kind of flavor profile to get on a sip, especially from something that's like barrel proof like that.
And the wheat's all over the place in our batches. Like it's the most inconsistent profile, like batch over batch. So depending on how that batch of barrels was doing, you know, it factors into like how much of that wheat we use. You know, sometimes we go all in on the wheat, sometimes we hold back on it. And like these 21 rye barrels in this batch were phenomenal. And we just kind of went a little heavier on it. But you know, our mash bill in general though always hangs out in that 70% corn, you know, area. So, you know, even though we just have to tweak the blend by like, you know, even 1%, and it changes the profile completely.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so it's probably, our percentages probably range plus or minus like 10% across each mash bill.
That's which is why you're going to get such unique kind of flavor profiles within that too. But I like it. I mean, I personally think it's really hard to fuck up a 4-grain whiskey. You have to actually almost intentionally try and make it bad because you're putting literally everything good about whiskey into a barrel.
I
You know,
agree
and then
with
into
you,
a
man. It's
bottle.
so funny. I sometimes I tell Danny, I go, God, this blend feels not like bulletproof, but I mean, it's like it works,
Yeah.
and it works across a lot of cast finishes. It's been very I call all reliable. That's what it's been. You know, it's been all reliable for us, and that's why we've stuck with it, because it allows us to like just really hone in on it. We've been able to really beat the shit out of this mash bill, this blend that we're doing as we're learning, right? And it's been a very like all reliable way of building the business, I'd say.
I mean, we know it like inside out at this point, you know, just even with blending, you can taste the component and then just automatically know like where you have to go with the blend. Just from tasting this mash bill so many times. I mean,
Connor, why don't you? Oh, sorry, Danny. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
we must have. I mean, I know I've probably tasted through thousands of these mash bill barrels of this mash bill.
Yeah, Danny's liver looks like a prune.
what a lucky
a little
son
raisin.
Of a bitch,
No, it's like a little raisin at this point.
Connor, why don't you walk us through the next one? Because we have two different ones.
Yes. So the next one that we're going to be tasting here is the Barrel Strength Toasted series that both Paul and I have. Obviously, a barrel strength bourbon finished in a toasted charred barrel. I personally have batch number B-1. It's char number 2, heavy toast. Paul, what do you have?
I have batch 38, char number 3, heavy toast.
And what's beautiful about this, and I'll let you guys get more into this, but every single batch with this is going to be different. So what goes into the strategy behind the toasted series?
Well, I'll kind of kick it off, and then I'll turn it over to Danny, who's kind of leading the charge on on the product side. But you know, for us, we kind of recognize. So in the beginning, when we started the business, we outsourced everything. We got our bourbon from MGP. We had partnered with Castle and Key. We partnered with Bardstown Bourbon Company on bottling. You know, we needed to bring in folks because we were bootstrapping it. And, you know, that's just how you start a business. You just got to go. You got to figure it out, right?
You don't build a distillery first, then make shit after that.
Yeah, right.
Plan.
yeah, exactly. So we had to remain kind of like, you know, always looking at costs and everything. So we don't have any outside investors. We still don't have any outside investors. And so we finally, we recognized probably middle of, probably right before summer of last year, you know, we did recognize that we needed to have a facility, or we needed something, right? Didn't have to be fancy or anything like that. And one of the things that we always had was our warehouse. So no matter what, when we first started, we had a warehouse in New Jersey where all of our finished goods would come to. And, you know, everything was FOB'd. It was picked up there by our distributors. And when we were self-distributing in the beginning, that's where we just take stuff from. But yeah, no, we're very fortunate for us, but that building used to be an old alcohol chemical factory. So it was kind of retrofitted to be a DSP. It had all of kind of a lot of that miscellaneous stuff, like what, Danny, like the fire retardant, you know, electrical and walls and
explosion proof wiring, like
explosion proof. That was the word I was looking for. That's cool. That sounds a lot cooler than, you know, better word.
Explosion proof wiring. I like it.
But we were able to we kind of did the application last year. We're able to get our DSP. We got our rectifying and bottling permit here in New Jersey. And we opened up the facility, and it's 3,000 square feet. I mean, it's not big at all, but you know, it's allowed us to kind of go and kind of start that process off. We're able to do stuff in-house and blend and bottle in-house. And that's what we needed in order to do a product like Toasted.
Interesting.
Connor, I'm interested to hear what yours tastes like.
Mine, so I've had my bottle for a few weeks now, and I was very excited to pick it up. As soon as I got home, I opened it, I tasted it. I started writing down kind of what I was smelling, what I was tasting. my whole experience with it. On mine, a lot. I get a strong oak note on the front of the nose, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what type of
proof is
fruit
yours?
I'm picking up. Mine is 114 proof, so 57% ABV.
Mine's 115.
So very similar. But along with the oak, the two main things that I get on the nose are a forward oak note and a sweet fruit, almost like almost like a candied fruit, is what I'm picking up. Very, very sweet nose. I was honestly not expecting it to be as sweet as it is. So what do you get on yours, Paul?
You're all gonna think I'm nuts as shit.
I already do.
Coca-Cola.
Oh, hell yeah.
Really?
Coca-Cola.
As soon as I tasted it, I was like, that tastes like soda to me. And it's wild.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like
You're a char 2, right?
char 3.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's not like, obviously it doesn't taste like Coke, but that's kind of like that. You ever like get a Coke when you get a Coca-Cola that's like brand new and it's kind of got almost like a little kick to it because it's got like all the bubbles. Like that's kind of what I'm saying right here. Like a spiked Coke almost. That's what I'm getting. It's weird.
I love
But
Coke,
I like that.
so
Like a whiskey and Coke.
If you could get a fizzy whiskey and Coke, yes. I guess that's the good
really
way
interesting.
To put it.
That's really interesting.
But I agree. The nose is sweet. I am getting a lot of oak in that. You can definitely get the oak and the char in the nose. That's my brain's just like doesn't know how to comprehend what I just drank. That's why I just set it down real quick. I was like, I gotta really like think this because I have no clue like what is happening right now. What do you guys get?
No.
Danny, what? I mean, there's so many different iterations of it. So with the toasted series, thing about it too, we wanted to make it a series and we put it on the back of the back of the bottle. So when we started it, we started with 4 barrels from Speyside, and it was a char 1 medium toast, char 1 heavy toast, char 2 medium, char 2 heavy. And we were just kind of exploring. It was more R&D. And we did our 4-grain blend. It was a small batch barrel strength using a couple tanks and put it together. And after about a month and a half, 2 months, we were like, whoa, these are like starting to like, they're taking form. And originally we were going to pick one. So we were going to pick one char and toast level. And from those 4, we were like, God, I kind of like all of them. Right. So then what we did is we expanded it out to 8. We said, well, let's keep those because we kind of each had different opinions on all of them. So then we brought it to 8 barrels, and then we included like char 5 mediums, char 5 heavy, char 3 heavy, char 3, like literally everything. There was a ton of them. And I think that's when we decided, we're like, look, at the end of the day, it's, they're all different. I mean, that's kind of the fun part of it. It's so it just was meant to be something, where people can kind of see at least what we're seeing from the different char and toast levels.
Yeah.
So
now we've introduced different cooperages. So now we've got Kelvin barrels and we've got other cooperages in there as well, which is throwing another curveball at us.
Right.
You're gonna have people who are gonna try to find every single iteration that you guys release.
Yeah, because you're not going to get the same flavor profile on these
ever.
Don't
ever
at all. It's like it's crazy, and it's our 3 mash bills being blended together. So there's a small batch blend that's going into it, and then it's going into some sort of char and toasted barrel. And so the amount of different variations that you can make is endless. And we've kind of like, we're having a lot of fun with it. And we probably need to like hone in a little more, but at this point, we're playing with the blends, we're playing with the different chars and toasts. It's like you're just searching for perfection almost, and then even
and
got
Connor, that one you have is one of the first. That was one of those like original 8 barrels.
Yeah,
I remember that barrel.
I went to Connecticut. It was one of the, remember we released it to Connecticut statewide.
It's like Good Will Hunting when the girl asked him what the names of his like 12 brothers. That's how it is with like our barrels. It's like Marky, Ricky,
Jimmy,
Kerry,
Johnny,
Davey,
Sammy,
yeah.
Swimmy, Swanson.
That's a great
Funny.
that's a great movie quote right there. And that's maybe I get apples on the nose. Maybe that's the fruit, like the sweet fruit I can't get. And that calls back to, you like apples?
Yeah.
I got her
Yeah.
number.
How about them apples?
What do you think of those apples?
I
That's a great movie.
love that barrel that you were tasting. It was a good one.
This is fantastic. This is a fantastic pour. And I'm not gonna lie, to be honest, when I first poured it, I loved the nose. I loved the palate. I wasn't a huge fan of the finish. Something tasted off with the finish with me, and I couldn't put my foot on it. Now, you know, I don't know if it's because I've had time to let it sit or whatever, but I think it's just what I get on this finish is an overload of like different types of rye spices, rye spice. I get a lot of pepper, like peppercorn almost on the back end. And I'm not the biggest rye guy to begin with, but I think that the more I've sipped it, the more I've really come to appreciate what's I think is a very complex palate and finish. And honestly, this is turned into one of the pours I find myself gravitating towards, because there's in my opinion, there's a lot going on in this. There's a lot of the sweet charred notes that you get just from the whiskey blending with the fibers in the wood and getting that kind of like sweet oaky note to it. But that finish is what kind of draws me into it. I'm a big fan of this toasted series, especially, you know, like you said, especially my specific batch.
Oh man, we appreciate it. It's funny too, because it's actually hard. I mean, there's a lot going on. It's 3 bourbon mash bill blend. So there's 4, you know, which has 4 grains, and then you put in a toast, you know, you're finishing with a toasted new oak barrel. You know, some of these run amok too. You're like, whoa, like they're running all over the place. How do you keep the balance? And it's funny now, Danny and I have, after many, I mean, look, we're on batch like 55 of this. And the batches are so many because we only have a 500-gallon tank. So we don't have, that's all we're working with. So we can't, there's never going to be something at least at this point in time. But yeah, man, that's awesome. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun project, put it that way.
Our profile was was grain forward, right? So we thought it like worked, because now we're adding this char or this barrel influence to our blends. And it kind of like takes our barrel strength to the next level, like as far as, you know, adding another layer of complexity.
I agree with that.
That was 100%. A tough word to say.
So,
and
fellas,
fun fact. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say a little fun fact. If it's got the letters are unique identifier for if they're actually just a single barrel. So if it's a letter, but if it's a number, it's actually a batch of barrels.
Interesting. Okay. So B-1 is a single barrel of this toasted. That's very cool. Did not realize that.
Yeah, I didn't even know it till like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sometimes.
And he just told me that.
Breaking news here on Bourbon with Friends.
I was like, "What's batch A, dude?"
That's funny.
It's like, I don't know what else to name it.
Yeah, it's like, it's all good, man. As long as I know. So if it's a letter, it's a single barrel. If it's a number, it's a batch, like a multi-barrel batch.
Right.
Fellas, we are blending these barrels together again. So it's like now it's another blend. Like sometimes we'll blend the different char levels together, or it's just a single barrel. You know, it doesn't want to blend with anything else. It just wants to be by itself.
Talk to us a little bit of about what's next for the brand.
Very timely discussion.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So, it's actually very timely. I'm sure I'll talk to Danny about it tonight too. It's like literally what we're talking about now. So, you know, for us, it's really tricky. Like we always kind of want to we did a toasted series, right? And we experiment with a lot of different stuff, right? I think in a perfect world, we would be able to close the program down, take a beat. Let's recap what happened. What do we like? What didn't we like? We had some things on the label we probably want to tweak, and then we can kind of hone in on toasted for next year, you know, bring it back. Right. That's perfect world scenario. But, you know, I think, and then we still may do that. But before we do that, we're launching, we're still growing. So you're launching in new markets and they have expectations like, well, we want this. And you're like, oh shit. So for us, I think we're trying to look at a couple new products right now. We have we do have a small limited release of 13-year American light whiskey, which is like the first non 4 grain we've done. It just, we've gotten offered a bunch of light whiskey before in the past. And I just didn't really, the barrels were fine. It just didn't really, these were great. There were 30 great barrels. We loved them. They taste like milk chocolate and rum. So they just had unique, they had really
fan of that.
Great. Oh, they were delicious.
Give me.
Oh,
I know.
Very good. So we said, screw it. Just let's do it. So we're bottling that now for probably coming out in January. Probably some may even start hitting, Connecticut. I know Connecticut's going to start hitting right away. So there'll be some start hitting right away. And then we're looking at, we do want to introduce some rye whiskey. But we want to blend, like we are blender, we like blending. So we're looking at some Boo ryes. We're looking at some stave finishes.
Awesome.
And I'm really big on, the bourbon and rye whiskey blends. I think that's fun with maybe some finishes, but that's kind of the big thing for us right now. I don't want to say
possibilities, right?
Boo. Yeah, I like it though. I dig it.
Yeah, we're playing around with them right now. Just
show them the stage. Show them the stage behind you, Danny.
Oh, there you go.
But those little benchtop test. But yeah, we're just playing around like that. Just trying to see what works and get familiar with these barrels. And because if anything, we learned, there were a couple of bad batches when we first started, but it was really us just getting familiar with these profiles and these mash bills. And then, you got to know them in and out, and then you can figure out how to put them together.
Right.
One thing I loved about Toasted was that it was the same product, same UPC, same price, but it had so many different iterations of it.
Right. Yeah.
In a kind of rapid fire. I mean, look, we're on batch 8. Well, now we're almost shipping batch 9 of our barrel strength, but batch 8, and that's been since it's still a short amount of time. It's not like, oh, it's been 15 years. No, it's only been 3 years. But what's so cool about with Toasted series, we're on like batch 55 and it's been like 5 months. But I think that's cool. I don't think that's it's not meant to be
awesome though.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. And for me, I have ADD, so I naturally like stuff like that. But I think it's been a fun experiment to just have fun with it. And, it's definitely upped our game for sure. I'd say that.
How many states are you guys in now?
Right now we're in 21 states.
21. What's the goal to be in by the end of 22?
Oh, that's a good question. Actually, I think we're probably going to slow down a little bit next year. I think you always call it that honeymoon phase when you launch a new market and people are excited about it. And, I think we're going to launch in a few markets for sure next year, but I think it's really going to be about how do we broaden it in the existing markets we're in. Right. So we're starting to do a lot more market visits, like get out there, meet, say hi to our customers.
More brand recognition, taking advantage of where you're already at.
Exactly. Because there's still so much more there's so much more we could do in our home state of New Jersey. Right. So I think we're really keen. I think there's a lot of upside just in the markets we're in right now. And we're gonna have some market launches. It's probably not going to be. What's funny is we launched in more markets in 2020 than we did in 2021.
A lot of places did actually, because there was more time to kind of focus and do some of those things.
It's all virtual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So now we're gonna kind of slow back a little bit.
Tell everyone where they can find you online, and if you guys are part of any online, shipping kind of places where people can buy from home.
Yeah, no, find us at penelopebourbon.com, on Instagram, at Penelope Bourbon, Facebook. You can find us definitely online at the Seal Box to all of them really. So Mash and Grape, but yeah, or a lot of, if we're in your market, right there too.
Yeah, definitely give this a try. I know Connor's all agreeing with this too. Well, it was
Yeah.
funny because Connor didn't like this the first time, and now he really likes
Yeah,
it. So
and
it's
I
like,
remember I remember texting you that, Paul. It's like, listen, I just picked up Penelope Toasted. This is before I even knew like we were gonna
Right.
talk to Mike and Danny, and I was like, I want to like it so bad because I love toasted, and it's really amazing how something can grow on you. And this is a prime example. And just hearing you guys talk about, you know, the passion behind the Penelope brand, from the bottle to the name to everything that goes into each specific release and what you're going for in the future. To me, that's a whiskey brand that I want to support. That's a whiskey brand that I want to tell my friends about, saying, listen, Penelope's the real deal. This is stuff that is, you know, it's truly is made with love, and it's made by, you know, I know you guys have a team of people. You really highlight that on your website real well, but you know, it's made from two guys who had this vision, who just loved whiskey just like all of us. And, you know, if you know, Penelope can do it, you know, I would think that's inspiring to people who might be in your, you know, in a similar position, say, you know what, maybe I can do this too. And the more whiskey that's available, the better the market is and all. So I appreciate what you guys do. And, you know, the love that, especially after this conversation, the love that goes into this brand is something that I can 100% get behind.
And Mike, before we sign off, Laura from Oz said I had to make sure she said tell you hello.
Oh, nice. Hello. How are you? That's awesome.
Tell her to mind her own business down there in Australia. We're doing real whiskey things here in the U.S.
No, Australia's been great, man. We've gotten they've been awesome, man. They've been awesome to us. We did a barrel pick with our friends down there, and they did a char 5 medium. It was a good one.
Fellas, thank you so much for joining the show. This has been great. I'm really glad that I got introduced to this because now I'm going to have to spend more money on bourbon, on things when these bottles are gone. So thank you so much. The worst part about doing a podcast is you wait to try certain things because people will send you things to try. It's great, right? It's like, it's the best Ponzi scheme ever. Have a decent podcast and people send you shit. But the downside is then you only have one, then you drink it and you want more. I am very happy to have tried this. You guys are really cool, which to what Connor said, I think that really adds to it. You want to support brands of people who are cool, people who are excited and passionate about what they do, who are, you know, you guys are upfront and honest about how your product comes from. It's not like you're saying you're producing this and you're like your backyard still, you know, and I think a lot of people respect that.
Handcrafted.
Yeah, and I'm handcrafted
with the finest grains. Like, nah, dude.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future, and I'm sure we'll have you all on and, you know, partner on some things hopefully down the road, and you know, keep trying all your yumminess that you're gonna put out.
Oh yeah,
Connor, come down. We got a lot of people from Connecticut that make the trip, and obviously, Paul, you have an open invite anytime you guys want to come.
Appreciate it.
So
yeah, we
absolutely.
might have to. We're actually kind of trying to see how we can connect, like do a Northeast trip and then do like a Kentucky area trip, so that way we can find ways to, you know, basically drink lots of whiskey together. So
that's right.
Well, open invite.
Oh, it'll happen. Trust me.
Yep.
I gotta get that. I gotta keep that gold status on airlines, so I'm gonna have to use a lot of excuses. I gotta have a lot of excuses to go places. So
I love it,
fellas. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, a bourbon with friends could change the world.
Let's go.